Hi, Afeefa.
Hi, Christine. Happy Saturday and happy
Same to
Menstrual
you.
Hygiene Day.
Yes, same to you. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Everything's going fine. I'm going to ask you the universal virtual meeting question. Are you hearing me well?
Yes, I'm hearing you well. I'm seeing you well. You're looking beautiful. Are you hearing me
Thank
well and seeing me well?
you. Yes, perfect.
Awesome.
Loving,
Great. I'm so
loving
excited
all
to
the
be here.
paintings in your background.
Oh, thank you so much. I love to support our young artists here in Guyana. Yeah, and it always makes me so happy whenever I wake up and I see them all around. Yeah. How is
Yes,
your Saturday going?
it's going great. A bit hot, but it's good otherwise. How's yours?
Yeah, I'm doing so good. It's a good Saturday. I actually just came back from an event. The Girls Guide of Guyana, they had a menstrual health day event with young women, primary school, secondary school age, and they were talking about the importance of understanding your menstrual cycles, and they had some doctors and women really willing to answer questions. So it was really fun to be in community with persons. And then today, I'm so happy that we're speaking, and also we have a very special guest.
Yes, yes. So let's get into it because I see we have some persons joining in already. So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining in and spending your Saturday afternoon with us. And happy Menstrual Health Day to each and every one of you. So, my name is Afeefa Richardson, and the Digital Communications Manager here at the Breadfruit Collective. And with me, I have Christine. So, Christine, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you so much, Afeefa. I'm Christine Samwaroo, and I'm the founder of the Breadfruit Collective here in Guyana, and we'll speak a bit more about it as the conversation unfolds.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Christine. And I know even though we're part of the same team and we work together, it's always really refreshing having these conversations with you on these very important societal topics. I always learn so much. So I'm really
Oh,
happy to be here. And I know today we're going to be talking about menstrual health in general, but also specifically looking at access to period products and how that ties into gender justice and also sustainability. So, how can we make our periods more sustainable as we all try to play our part in protecting Mother Earth? And joining us in conversation today to talk about that very important topic is Amy Li Baksh from the Lilypads Project. So, let's welcome Amy.
yay, I'm so excited. I'm always so inspired by Amy and the work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's
Also, I
see
see
if
some of
Amy
our
can
friends
come
are joining
up.
us. Scrub Lives, Sister Sustainable. Thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate the support.
Yeah, so Christine, can you do the honors and see if we can get Amy on board?
Yes.
Hi
Hi, Amy. Happy Menstrual Health Day.
to you. I'm outside, so you all might be hearing a lot of background noises, but I thought it was an appropriate place to be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. We're hearing you fine. And I love your shirt.
Thank you. Yes. So this is part of what I'll be working on later today with Feminine, which is a local NGO here in Trinidad and Tobago. So yeah, we can talk about that in a bit.
Sure. Thank you so much for agreeing to have this chat with us. I know Christina and I, we both follow your work and we're always so inspired by what you do. And it's
The
so great to be
feeling
able
is
to connect
mutual.
with you. Oh, thank you so much. So
Yeah.
as
Thanks
we
so much
get,
for having me.
sure,
Yeah.
thank you. So as we get into the conversation, Amy, can you just share a little bit about yourself? Like tell us who is Amy Lee Back?
Okay, yeah, sure. Well, I guess a good place to start is where I am right now. I'm not home in my house. I'm actually in the middle of a band practice. So the rest of the band is locked away, trying not to make too much noise. But yeah, that's kind of, I wear a lot of different hats. I consider myself an artist, a writer, creator, and well, I also run the Lilypads Project. Um, so basically, what I try to do through Lilypads is it's kind of a twofold project. The first part is basically locally making and selling cloth menstrual pads. And the second part is, being part of this conversation right now on menstrual equity, on sexual and reproductive health, and all of those things that we really should be teaching very early on in schools, but we don't. So that's what I've been doing with Lilypads for the past, I guess it's three years now, but it feels like we just started and there's so much more work to do. So yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah, and congratulations, 3 whole years. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
And the landscape of menstrual equity has changed so much in the last 3 years. When I started, people weren't really talking about it as much, but now we have so many incredible young activists who are just putting in the work and getting things done, and it's really nice to see. It's really, really lovely. So yeah.
Yeah, and completely agree. Because today, Mental Health Day isn't the day that I would have been aware of much in prior years, and it's
Yeah.
really good to see this year the amount of communication and voices around the issue, around the topic, and around the day. So, I guess I want to ask you both, because I know this is a topic that's close to both of your hearts. Why is it important for us to observe Menstrual Health Day? And either of you could jump in first.
Well, I guess
I
I
can
can
jump
start. Okay, you go, you go, you go.
So thank you so much, Amy, for being here and everything that you said. It just makes me so happy. So as I mentioned, I'm founder of the Breadfruit Collective, and we really, really are trying to understand a whole and take a whole of society approach when we're talking about gender and environment. And we know that we don't live single issues lives. Like these issues intersect. The issue of equity intersects. We need to make the conversation around menstruation a very normal conversation, and the issue around access, because we may be able to buy products in the store, but how expensive are those products? How accessible? And then, really importantly, what exactly is in those products? Because a lot of times we see those are single use plastic made products, and we those are things that are going at really private parts of our body, and you really have to know what is made up of it. And then on the other side, where it ends up in landfill, we really have to think of the whole cycle of these products and the way we're getting access to it, how they're being produced, and so forth.
Yeah, I really think it's so important to take a holistic approach, because when you start trying to solve one problem, like you want to say, okay, I want to make sure everyone in my country who menstruates has access to period products. So that was kind of where I had started. And then as I started doing the work, I realized, okay, so that means how do you reach people who are in more remote areas of the country? How do you educate people who don't have access to, traditional forms of education? How do you reach people who don't have water supplies? Things like that. So it's really like, I think to be activists and to actually get work done, you have to be thinking of the macro and the micro at the same time. And yes, we're talking about menstruation, but it's also, there's so many different things tied into it. And like you were saying, the stuff that we use, where does it end up after we use it? What's in it? How do we know that? So this is something that it's kind of, it shows up in so many different parts of our lives. So it's really like, it's all interconnected.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely all interconnected. And you've both started to touch on sustainability and access already.
Yeah.
But just a little bit more in terms of the work of your organization and how that integrates with today's day and integrates with sustainability, access, and gender justice as the overall overarching issue.
So Lilypads is kind of in a funny place where we're not an NGO, and yet most of the stuff that I do is not for money. So I'm kind of technically running a business, but I mean, any business person would probably be like, you're doing a terrible job because the pads that I make, I'm not trying to get repeat customers, you know? I'm like, you get this from me, I shouldn't see you for like 10 years. Like, go off into the world and don't come back, you know? That's really kind of fighting this modern idea that we have now of like planned obsolescence. So they're just building stuff so you have to come back, you can't even repair it. Once it breaks, it's done. And I'm kind of like, why? Let's not do that, please. Let's do something else. So that was what I wanted to start with lily pads was I was saying, look, we've been using cloth menstrual pads for generations and generations and hundreds of years, and disposables only came about in the last century. So we all, people who haven't been exposed to sustainable stuff, they're like, this is kind of weird and foreign, but it's really not. It's really like our ancestors did this all the time, except now we have better technology to create fabrics that are even, more absorbent, even more sensitive to skin. So I wanted to try and say, okay, if this is something that's possible to make hair and no one's doing it, let's do it. Let's show people that you don't have to constantly be, as small countries importing everything that you use. We can find ways to use the indigenous knowledge that we have had passed down and reclaim the knowledge that was lost and make stuff for ourselves. And then of course, I ran into the limitations of I can't give access to everyone because it's still expensive to make these things in the small form that I'm making them. And so, then you kind of have to brainstorm how do you get around that? How do you reach people where in a conversation where not everyone is ready to start that journey? For some people, they're at a point where even the idea of it is terrifying to them. So there's a lot of, I mean, it's kind of, there's mental health stuff wrapped up in it as well. And all of that is part of learning how to reach people, is learning how to help people process the trauma of how we exist right now in this kind of weird capitalistic isolated space and build community instead. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're trying to do over here at Lilypads.
Yeah, everything you said, it was so inspiring, and you're hitting all these points like perfectly, because like you said, it's not just one thing. And I admire the fact that you're making these pads and you even repair them. I saw on your page, and
Yeah,
it's I can tell it's not about the money for you. It's about creating a product and making it accessible to people
yeah,
who need them. And I can't say that I've seen other businesses that has a model like that. So I really, really do admire you. And to answer Afifa's question, with breadfruit, we're really interested in just going back to ancestral practices, honestly, because we had it right. Our foreparents, our grandparents, they had it right. And I don't know what happened. This capitalistic society like took over, and now we have to get reusables for everything. And not only is it costly, but it's not good for our planet. It's not good for our health. So I think with Breadfruit, we really do believe in mutual support and mutual aid and community and partnerships. So for for the last 2 years, we have been involved in a lot of period and mutual aid drives to collect these products and share it with persons that need it. And similarly, having conversations like this and understanding and unlearning certain practices is really
yeah,
important.
yeah. I think one thing too, and this is something that I mean, I've been talking about this since I started Lilypads, but being in a pandemic and just life being life, I haven't been able to do it yet. But one thing I'm really excited about, hopefully taking Lilypads to in the future, is doing workshops where we teach people how to make their own pads. I don't really have the capacity to make pads to sell to the whole of Trinidad, far less to reach the Caribbean. But if we can help people, especially in like those more difficult to access locations where they don't have regular access to, you don't have like a big grocery store right there where you can go and just pick up stuff 5 minutes away kind of thing, giving them the tools so that they can make it themselves. And pads are so easy to make, like so easy to DIY. The stuff that I use, I mean, I purchase specific fabric that is made to be specially absorbable and stuff. But if you have towels lying around, if you have old towels lying around, you have old t-shirts lying around, you can build a pad out of that. You can take one of your disposable pads, just draw lines around it, map it out, and the cotton from the t-shirt, cotton is always great against skin, and then towel, terry cloth on the inside, you can make your own pad. So I really want to start doing some stuff like that, doing those kinds of workshops and empowering people so that they have the tools to carry it forward themselves and, just widen the circle so that we have more reach collectively. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really
Soon.
amazing. Oh, sorry.
No, I was saying soon, soon.
Yes, soon. But it's really inspiring to hear you talk about Lilypads Project because, like you mentioned, it's originally a business, but you do seem more NGO based with everything that you do and everything that you're involved in, and your whole vision for persons getting access to everything. So I really, really admire it. Like I admired your work before, but now I'm really like, oh my God, yes, 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 go Amy.
I feel the same way, honestly. It really is, it's so special to be able to chat with you all. And I just like regional solidarity just means the world to me. We're so small, but like the history that we have is so rich and the culture of like revolution. We really like are an incredible like little grouping of nations, and we really need to harness that more. So
Yeah,
important.
definitely. Mhm. And the work that you're doing with creating the reusable pads, it is like you mentioned, it's something that our ancestors used to use. Cloth pads is something that we had back in the days, but then
Yeah.
we moved away to the disposable pads. Now it's like you have to do a whole like societal change again. So the work that you're doing through Lily Pads is really revolutionary and it's changing perspectives, changing habits. So I really, really do love that. And you mentioned like how you got started and the limitations and your inspiration behind that, just really bringing back those practices and seeing the need for us to change to those more sustainable options with everything that's happening in the world right now with climate change. So yeah, that's really great. Um, I know you mentioned you don't have the capacity to like sew pads for the whole of Trinidad and so forth, and we know that you do the sewing yourself.
Yeah.
But like, do you have a background in sewing, or did you have a background in sewing before you started Lily Pads? Or is that something
Um,
that is new to you?
Not strictly, no. My grandmother actually was a seamstress. So growing up, there was a point, I mean, there was always a sewing machine in the house. My mom, she's not so much a seamstress as she'll make pillows and curtains. That's her like level. And so when I was in school, I used to do little sessions with my grandmom. It was a nice way for us to kind of spend time together. And she would teach me little things, how to make a pants and stuff. And um, just life and being busy and needing to make money and get jobs and stuff, it was kind of not really feasible to continue. So I haven't been, I'm not really a seamstress. Like, I'm not a person that can go and like whip up a dress and stuff like that. Actually, my partner is a better seamstress than I am, but Um, with Lilypads, they're really like it's not that complex to make it, and all the information I needed to make it was available online, most of it for free. I think I spent maybe $6 US purchasing the patterns that I started using, and a lot of this stuff was just like YouTube and looking at different ways because there's no big mainstream company making reusables to that scale. So over the years, young people and young menstruating people have created their own avenues for having these resources, building these resources, and sharing them. And if you look online, you'll see there's a whole community of young people who are just saying, like, I have this tools to make this. I'm going to share it with you. Here you go. Make your own. Just, let me know how it goes, kind of thing. So it's a very collaborative environment to step into. And I just love that because I just love the idea of, you have something that's not being taught in schools, that's not being really referenced in the society in any meaningful way. But you always, it's like having concrete and then having little plants growing up through the cracks. There's really no way to prevent people from uh, getting to the knowledge, no matter how difficult it is. We always come back to it. So that for me was really inspirational, and that was the energy that I wanted to start with. It was an energy of other people who had already walked this road giving me the tools I need so that I can then share that with others as well. So that was something that was really important to me. And yeah, I come from an advertising background, so I left advertising to do this, and I was just like, I just can't be in this world collecting a salary to just sell people toothbrushes or whatever, like it was just soul sucking for me. And even though now I am so broke all the time, it's it's a different kind of fulfillment that you get from doing something that doesn't scar your soul in the long term. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I relate to you in that my grandmother was a seamstress, and there's always a sewing machine in our home. Like my mom could do basic sewing, but again, she's not like a great seamstress. So, like sewing is something that has just been like something for me. When I was growing up, I thought that everybody just had a sewing machine. Everybody knew to like do a little hem if they need to.
Yeah.
But then I realized that's not the case. It's something I always admire, but again, with school and everything, sometimes I just never found the time to give to it. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
really glad that you were able to harness that skill and create something so amazing. So just like thinking about the pads as well, just like how long does one of those take you to make?
um if you see me looking around, there's what looks to be a wasp just like hanging around near me. So that's why the perils of being in nature. um, but yeah, when I started off, it took me maybe about an hour to make one. There's a couple different layers to it. So my pads are about 4 to 5. Some of them have 6 layers of fabric, and you lay down the inside and then you flip it inside out. So all the core material that's storing the menstrual blood and stuff is locked inside. And so that process, I don't think it takes me an hour anymore, but I don't really make them one off anymore. So it's kind of like you do a batch of like 20. So I'll be working on, and I'll just have like the cores going first, and then I'll flip everything together and stuff. So I wouldn't say I have it down to a science. It's difficult for me because sometimes I can't work on it. One thing that's been interesting doing this is I'm autistic, right? So I have certain sensory issues that I'm very sensitive to certain things. Sometimes the sound of the sewing machine or the feel of the fabric, I physically can't work with it. So it's been interesting working around my disability as well and figuring out ways to do this that might seem like I kind of take the long way around, but it's finding accommodations that work for me and work for my body. So I'm not really, just burning myself out trying to be a machine, which I'm not, none of us are.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for feeling safe to share your story with us. And I definitely, when you start talking, both of you, when you start talking about your grandma, the inspiration for Breadfruit came out of working and being with my grandma. So I
Wow.
feel like there's such a special place for grandmas in our society.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I am like my mom, her and I would have conversations about, when she was a girl and how the kind of products that were available. And she would say like
Mhm.
they would use cloths, but it was something that was looked down upon in society because people would be
Yeah.
like, you have to be modernized, like why are you still, and even to wash it and hang it on the line to get dry, it was something that was frowned upon. But I'm curious to know, since you've started, I know you've done a lot of work with feminists, and there are also
Mhm.
some a group I really admire. What has been the feedback so far in terms of using reusables? And like, when you talk to people, are they receptive of using reusable pads?
We get the full range of human emotions when it comes to dealing with lily pads. So actually, I have a little bit of mental health training as well, which helps because it's also, it's a space that's rife with so much trauma and people don't have a space to talk about it. So a lot of times people end up in my inbox and they just came to ask about a pad and then we end up in a deep conversation about all kinds of stuff because it's just people need that space. Now I've kind of forgotten the tangent that I was going on, but yeah. So I've had on one end you have people who are educated about this stuff who maybe have heard about it before. They thought it was something that we didn't have here, and so there's some people who are really excited. I'm like, I can't wait to try this. I'm so excited. Give it to me. And then on the far end, there are people who, even the idea of looking at a pad to them is like, oh my God, no. It's just, um, it's just like an immediate terror response. So it's really sort of reading people and meeting them where they're at. I can't jump in full steam ahead with someone who is still unsure about their own body and their relationship with their body because you can't force anybody to get where they need to be. We're all growing. It's a lifelong process and people have a lot to heal from. So I try to be sensitive to that. I try to lead by example. So the way that I run Lilypads, I try to be very transparent about this is how I work. This is what doesn't work. Sometimes I make mistakes. Sometimes, there are limitations to what my pads can do. And so that's why I always try to talk about what are the other options you have too. I don't sell cups or period underwear or stuff like that, but I always talk about it because I think that people need to know I'm not just here to sell you something. I want you to know that if you go and get something else and you don't end up buying from me, I'm still like cheering you on. And even for people who have to use disposables because, they don't have water access or they don't have, you know, uh, resources that would allow them to have a product that you need to regularly clean, regularly wash, have a space to dry it, all those things. Not everyone has that. So I also try to be gentle with how I talk about disposables because at the end of the day, there is a need for them still. And unless we fix the other issues we have in our societies, we will need to allow people to do what they have to do to survive, and not shame them for that. So that is something that is very important to me as well. And as you had mentioned, feminine, I just want to talk about them a little bit because they are just doing the most amazing work. As you can see, we love them over here. And I'm actually heading down to meet up with them around 5 o'clock today because right now they are off painting a wall in Arima. So for those of you who want to go check out their page, see how that mural is coming along, that's happening as we speak. And at 5 o'clock, they'll be doing a menstrual products donation pop up at Roots Yard, which is located in Marval, Marval. So I mean, they've been doing incredible stuff. They've been doing, sex ed. They've been putting up their safe cycle care banks where they people can donate period products, and if you need and you don't have access, you can go there. You can get access. So I just love them. They're so amazing, and I'm really glad that they asked me to jump back on board with this because I've been. It's tricky with I would love for people to donate reusables, so I'm hoping now to kind of get the word out there so people know that if they reach out to me, we can work something out. Obviously I have to there is a cost to making the stuff, but I'm trying to do something where I can do like a discounted price or something like that so people can donate and I can make pads and I can send to the care banks. So hoping people get on that train, but if you're here in Trinidad or even not in Trinidad and you want to be part of donating stuff, reach out to me and I will find a way to make it happen. And yeah, so busy day, busy day today.
Yes, all for the greater good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for any and love that you mentioned that there's like some persons on different end of the spectrum. I'm definitely on the like yes, give it to me. I want to try it, especially when I
Yeah.
see your pads. They have the most cutest designs. Like if you have any reservations about trying reusable pads, the designs definitely convince you.
That was very important to me actually. Firstly, because I'm, coming from an art background, I'm kind of like, how do I do this project and not get bored? So I had to give myself a little something so that I can like enjoy creating different prints and stuff. And so, also disposable pads are so medical looking. They look really like they just look very hospital to me, the all white, and it's not like our bodies are not necessarily medical, it's like just expanding beyond that idea of what periods are. And I thought, why can't we have something that's beautiful that makes you feel excited to use them and also feels like home, because all of the prints are designed with the Caribbean in mind and the beautiful nature we have around us and the ocean and the trees and the birds and the things that really make this place a special, unique place to live. I wanted people to feel connected to that and reconnect to their bodies as a part of nature and themselves as a part of nature because we are nature as well. We're not separate from it. This is all natural processes that are connected to everything else going on around us. So yeah, that's why the prints were really, even though it is the most complicated part of the pad is designing the prints, getting the fabric because I'll have to bring it down and stuff. It's something that was really important to me, just as like my own personal little thing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. It's like a little bit of the Caribbean, or a
Yeah,
lot of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
yeah. A
Yeah,
lot of thought
but
goes into your work, and I really admire it. It's something that I can see how passionate you are just talking about it, and I think I can listen to you talk about reusable and you understand the situation that we have. It's not like, you should just, you're forcing this idea on persons. I feel like you understand it so well. And you also mentioned like the mental health aspect, and just
Yeah.
like breaking that stigma is not an easy thing. And it seems like you understand it so, so well. And I admire that. So thank you so much for being so, I guess, thoughtful about the product, and, just understanding people in general.
Thank you. It's a process. I have spent many years in therapy, so that helps. Therapy helps. Go to therapy, kids, and I think we all, as a post-colonial group of spaces, we have so much. I keep saying trauma, but it's really it's trauma. We have so much trauma around our identity, around our, what we consume, what we produce, who we are as a people, and you have to be sensitive to that coming into these spaces. So I try my best, and it all comes from a space of like knowing that my own mental health has been this long ongoing journey, and there's ebbs and flows, and my own disability, and then realizing that disability is also a factor that's overlooked in the menstrual health conversation, because every different disability and even every different individual within each different disability has a unique experience when it comes to menstrual health. Autistic people who have sensory issues have a different PMS experience, and I've also been lucky enough to learn a little bit from the deaf community here in Trinidad and Tobago. I'm currently in the process of learning sign language, and it's been so joyful and wonderful to engage with that community and learn what are the issues that the deaf community is having when it comes to menstrual health. And it just is showing me that the human experience is so much more expansive than we give it credit for, and we have I think, or I feel a responsibility to learn as much as possible about the world around us, the people around us, and how we can better coexist.
Yeah, it's so inspiring because, as you mentioned, this the community of persons with disabilities. Even now, like I just realized, like I didn't even think of the issue from that perspective of how persons from those other communities deal with menstruation or their period. So that is definitely something for me to think about now,
Yeah.
and just yeah, you always find something new about like topics that you learn, and I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah,
And as
and I'm
Christy
no
mentioned,
expert on it either. I'm definitely not purporting. I am now in my baby steps of learning about disability justice and how to incorporate that into my activism. So there's a saying, nothing about us without us, and I believe especially with disability justice that's so important. So it is to listen to the people within the communities and hear from them, let their voices be the loudest when it comes to what their needs are and how we can work in solidarity with them.
yeah, definitely. And as Christy mentioned, we really love hearing you talk about your experience and the Lilypads Project, and we want to listen to it all day. But I do want to shift the conversation slightly to talk
Yeah.
a bit more about periods and menstruation in general. Uh, so, what I want to ask you both is, what is something you wish you knew sooner about periods and menstruation in general? Christy, maybe if you want to jump in first. I see Amy's thinking.
I could jump in. For me, I got my period really late. Well, what is considered late? I got it when I was 17. So all of my teenage years, I was just spent worrying like what was wrong with me, because everybody that I knew in school, they already had their period, and I think that affected me in so many ways, mental health wise, and it was just this thing that you got constantly got asked by family members like, you're not on your period yet, and it just there was a lot of shame around that too. So I feel like I wish I knew that it's totally okay if you get period later on in life. Like actually, your body is different, everybody is different.
Yeah.
It's yeah, there's a standard, I guess, an age range you're supposed to get it by, and at a certain age, if you don't get it, then yes, you have to go seek medical attention. But I
Yeah.
think for me personally, I wish I had given myself a little bit more grace, or I knew that like it's fine, it's okay, it's gonna come. Just be patient.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm I'm sorry, I'm so distracted because my guitarist is standing off to the side, flossing behind a screen and trying to distract me. So, yeah, the joys of working with friends.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think for me, what would have been something I would have liked to learn earlier, I um I had an interesting experience because I had about age 9 or 10, I ended up getting a urinary tract infection, a really bad one. That so those of you who don't know, a really bad UTI, you will bleed when you urinate, right? So this was something that I had no idea, and so I'm using the bathroom and seeing blood, and I'm like, my period is here! Oh my gosh! And I was like, I was so excited. I'm like, I'm ready to be a woman, whatever that means. And I'm like, but why am I in pain? So I didn't know about what a UTI was. And so I jumped to conclusions immediately. And I didn't end up getting my period until a couple of years later. I was about maybe 12, 13. But there are just so many things surrounding periods that we don't know. And then also there's this idea of stepping into your adulthood or your womanhood, which for somebody who now identifies as non-binary, a very complicated conversation. So I think that framing of periods as being kind of like a rite of passage into adulthood, I'm so over it. I'm so over it. These are, you were 17, and even so, a little baby, like these teens are just little kids. And can we stop acting like once you get your period, you're like suddenly in a different phase in your life? Because I think then it puts a lot of pressure on young people when they start menstruating to, okay, I need to become this person now. And, just continue to enjoy your childhood and your teenagehood and your youth as long as, I mean, forever, but also while you have it, because this idea of growing up at that age, I think it puts a lot of our kids at risk, because then you have young teens, preteens with this idea of, well, I'm big now, and so when it makes it easier for them sexual grooming and situations like that to happen. So I think the combination of not talking about it, but then putting it on this weird pedestal, it's really confusing to kids. And let's stop confusing them, please, for their safety, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And thank you both for sharing. From my end, one thing I wish I knew sooner, was that like stress and like your different changes in your habits, like it could actually affect like your cycle. I
Yeah.
got my period late as well. Not unfortunately not fortunately or unfortunately not as late as you mentioned, Christine. But I was still in Form 3 when I got my period, and all my friends, they had already gotten theirs in like Form 2 and Form 1.
Mhm.
Uh, but when I had gotten mine, I had a very irregular flow. Um, like I would miss months, and then when I get it, it would be like 9 days plus of bleeding, and then it got to this stage where I kind of bled for like a whole month, and I actually had to get like medical help to get it back, um, sort of like a schedule.
Yeah.
So like after I went through that, anytime it went off schedule, I just got really worried. And I thought like, okay, it's supposed to be clockwork. Like yes, 28 days, a little bit before, a little bit after, but it's supposed to kind of come around then. But if I would kind of, it would be like over a week late, I would get really worried, like, oh my God, is it gonna go back to what it used to be? And it took me a little while to realize that stress, or if I don't eat properly, or if I change how active I am, it can actually affect like my cycle. So when
Yeah.
I kind of realized that, now like I have a better track on it. If it's really late, I think back, I'm like, okay, that was a really stressful week at work. I'm fine. It's gonna come. I'm not magically pregnant. I'm not a Mary. Yes.
But I
But
think
yeah,
pregnancy is such an important part of the conversation too, because people don't really understand pregnancy and periods, and the fact that you can get pregnant on your period, and that's why sexual and reproductive education is so vital. Um, yeah, yeah, because also contraceptives can affect your period. The pill changes your cycle and changes the duration and the heaviness of your flow. I currently have an IUD, so I don't actually get a period at all, which is kind of annoying because then I can't test my new products on myself. So I always have to be bothering my friends and like, hey, check this out for me. Wait, let me know how it goes. Does it fit? Like, so we don't talk about how contraceptives affect your PMS, affect your period duration, affect the pain levels that you have, and affect, you know, um, how that intersects with your ability to get pregnant and all that stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this conversation is definitely multifaceted. It's not just about telling a young person, oh, now you have your period, now you're magically an adult, you're a young woman. There's so much that goes into it. And it's not only a conversation for persons to have with a young person when they're getting their period, it's a lifelong conversation. And just overall reproductive health, I think that's something that we really need in our society. I really, really enjoy this conversation. And one of the questions I have there, what are some of the remedies you use? I know, Amy, you have an IUD, but I guess you probably still have remedies you use
Yeah,
when
I
you're
actually I get really bad PMS since I put in my IUD. So that's a fun side effect that can happen. You can get extended cramps and like a really long mood swings. So I would get 2 days of mood swings and cramps before my period. Now I get maybe a full week, maybe more, even though I don't have a actual period at the end of it. So some of the things that are helpful to me and um, bundling up is great for cramps. You want to be as warm as possible. Get some socks on, get layers on. I have a friend who is a midwife who does this amazing, like, I don't know, it feels like magic to me because every time she does it, I'm like, oh my God. And she takes a towel and she does like this wrap that she ties around your midsection, and it's like firm but not tight. And I've tried to do it myself and it's a mess. But um, just keeping that area warm is so helpful. And the teas as well that are also really great, particularly for cramps. I think raspberry is supposed to be really good. I'm not sure what else. I'm sure that we have so many amazing indigenous plants that are so great for it. And that again, I'm not the expert, but there are a lot of activists working right now in our permaculture communities and stuff like that who are relearning how to work with these indigenous plants and see how they can help our bodies through the different phases of our cycle. Um, so yeah, keeping warm, teas, staying away from things like a lot of caffeine and things that are gonna make your muscles cramp up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let's see what else is good. Also, you should try free bleeding at least once in your life. I think
Mm-hmm.
everyone should. It's a scary concept, I think, if you don't know what you're getting into. But
Yeah.
for me, I think, as people who, menstruating people who are kind of expected to be kind of divorced from our bodies, is like, ew, that's gross kind of thing. Having the experience of just free bleeding, maybe, you're going down to sleep at night, you don't feel like wearing anything, just put on a towel on your bed and, just be okay with your body as it is. And I think that is a very freeing experience. And people who've used menstrual cups as well have said that, being faced with the reality of what your menstrual blood looks like and the amount that you are, with pads, you can't really see because of the fabric, but with a cup, it's all right there for you immediately to see, this
Yeah.
is this is me, this is part of me. And you really have to kind of reckon with your self identity through that, so think it's an important um, journey for people to get in touch with their bodies in whatever way feels right and comfortable, and just explore yourself.
Yeah, yeah, really helpful. And I'm definitely gonna try this towel thing. I'm gonna research it because it
Yeah,
seems like, yeah, I usually get like I have a hot water bottle that I use, and coconut water is something that helps me so much. And one of the things I do when I have my period, like I remind myself like this is actually happening. So it's actually a time to just pause and reflect on like my energy level. And I always view it as this renewal time. Okay, so my period is coming, I'm gonna feel this way. But after my period, I'm gonna have so much energy, and it's kind of like every month there is a reset.
I love that. I love the idea of just slowing down and being present in that moment with your body. And we just don't take enough time to do that in general, but also specifically surrounding menstruation. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you both mentioned some of the things that I would kind of use. Christine mentioned a hot water bottle. That's my friend. Amy, you mentioned staying away from caffeine. That's something I try to do. But for me personally, I would say for different persons, you really should try to find what works for you. Because for me, like I know persons have told me that what helps with the pain and cramps is being active and
Mhm.
exercising. But when I have my period, like the pain goes away when I sit still, when I find that perfect position in the perfect chair to just sit and be there. That's when the pain goes away. So I'm not about to be walking around trying to exercise.
Yeah.
Also, like I know persons have said that when they're on their periods, they don't have like an appetite to eat or they hardly eat. For me, like I can't eat a lot because sometimes I do get upset, but I have to eat because the minute I get hungry, the pain comes back. Once I eat something, the pain goes away. So I say it's really knowing like your body and what works for you, and just really using those remedies to get you through that period.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really great hearing from you both. And as we wrap up the conversation, because I see we're kind of close to the hour, um, just tying everything back into Mental Health Day and the importance of us having this day to raise awareness and remove the taboo from the topic and the stigma that's associated with menstruation. Um, Thinking about if our countries, our governments, our people as a whole are to really center menstruation and center like access to products for citizens, what do you think that would look like in your different countries?
Well, I mean, first off, I systemic change is the most vital aspect of this, right? Because the individual work we're doing, it's important, but unless we are able to collectively make our governments, um, you know, do things like institute sexual and reproductive health education in schools, and have period products available. Wouldn't it be so nice to be able to have kids go to school, whatever secondary school they need to use the bathroom? There's a dispenser right there where they can get a pad if they need one. Um, so I think looking to, like, for example, feminine and the stuff that they're doing the work. Like the sex ed and stuff that they're doing right now is so comprehensive, and I think our government could really take a page out of that book. um, but also we need to be willing to fight for it, because for every voice that's coming out that's saying this is something we need, there are also the voices of the more conservative parts of the community who are kind of like, don't teach them about this, you're going to make them have sex more, which no data supports that. And who don't want to talk about queer people in sexual and reproductive health education, which is absurd, because whether you like it or not, queer people are here, have been here, will always be here, and need healthcare just like everybody else. So I think it's really understanding our collective power, understanding that building community, building these bonds is the important step, because individually these things are impossible for us, but together we can really do it.
Yeah, 100%. I endorse everything you just said. And I feel like if we are moving to, the future and looking at this topic holistically, we need more people like you, Amy. We need more people doing the work that Feminist is doing. And we really have to understand this whole period poverty is not a buzzword. Like, stop treating it like that. I think our government here in Guyana, they really don't understand comprehensive the conversation around menstruation, and it's also not a topic just for women and girls. It's a whole of society conversation. So stop using these buzzwords and actually understand the issue and be informed about it. And I think what we have to think about too, I know the international community is pushing for it, like a lot of persons are able to work when they have their period, but some people can't. And understanding, like, some people do need sick leave, and understand, like, jobs, they also have to start having these conversations. We do need free and accessible period supplies. We need options, because we know one is not going to work for everybody. There's still room for disposable. We still need it. There's various communities that need those products, but understanding that that's not where the conversation stops. There is room for reusable, there's room for various other innovations, and we really need to get it and make it accessible and make the period conversation something that's just normal. When we're talking about equity, the period conversation can be a part of it. When we're talking about the environment, period conversation can be a part of it. It's just a normal bodily function that happens, and we just have to make it comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Thank you both so, so much. I've learned so much from this conversation, and I'm so inspired and ready to go out there and just advocate for this.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Amy, for joining us. Thank you for all the work that you do at the Lilypads Project. Thank you so much, Christine, for us having this space here at the Breadfruit Collective to always talk about these topics and have these conversations. And of course, thank you to our audience for joining in. I do hope you took away so much from this conversation. So,
Thank
happy
you both
mental
so
health
much,
day
and
again.
please support Amy and buy these products, and continue to do your research. And like she said, we can all make our own pads.
Yeah.
Happy, yeah. I'm so
Thanks for
happy, and
having
I
me.
hope I know you have a busy day ahead, Amy, but thank you so much for everything that you're doing. We're so happy that you're so welcoming and so accepting of our invitation, and I can't wait to see where Lilypads go in the future.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And it's so good to talk to you all, and, you know, just building a little bit more interconnectivity. It's this is the work here, you know. This is the real work here is really forming bonds and finding support systems so that we can make this all happen. So yeah, I'm thrilled to be here. It's really nice to talk to both of you, and thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so much
you.
and have a great rest of your day.
You too.
Take care.